Pressure has this way of following me no matter where I go. And whether it's real or imagined, at times I don't even know. I could be crushed under its weight or use its fuel to grow. But it's up to me and only me. I get to choose how the story goes. Hello, and welcome back to another video. I have not posted a video in a while, and there's a reason for that. It may not look like it also, but the project that I'm working on in this video has been a year and a half in the making. My aunt actually gave me some African print fabric 2 Thanksgivings ago, and she asked me if I could make her a skirt or a dress. It sort of depended on how many yards she had and how wide those yards were, what I would be able to make. So I took her measurements and I took the fabric and I traveled home with it. And I stuck it on a shelf, and it stayed on that shelf for the next year and a half. Every now and again, my uncle would call me and ask about the dress that I was supposed to be making for his wife. And every time I had an excuse. And initially, I was busy with other projects and other clients that I was working with more locally, and it seemed more conducive to work with the clients that were local, that I could see and actually work with and have dress fittings and that sort of thing with. And then I would get around to hers, because this was going to be a blind sewing project where I only had some measurements that I took and the fabric, and there was no room for a dress fitting or anything like that because she was so far away. So I worked on all of the clients that I had at that time, and then I didn't have clients anymore, and then I did again, and every time I saw the fabric, it was like this. I was filled with dread every time I saw it, because it was a reminder that there was a project that I was supposed to be doing, and now it was far overdue because months and months had passed, and it doesn't take me months and months and months to make a project. I would take the fabric out every now and again and convince myself, this time I'm gonna do it. Let me just see what I want to make, because there was no clear guideline. It was sort of make a skirt, make it look good. I sort of trust your style. So I would take it out and measure it. I figured out that it had about 4 yards. Okay, how much can I make with this? And the fabric is pretty loud and vibrant, and so that sort of, I took that into consideration. And then the print of the fabric and the pattern that it followed, having the blue and black background with these really bright circular circles, I guess, going along the length of the fabric. And the more I looked at it, the less I wanted to deal with it. So what would happen is I would take it out, try to do something with it, try to, theorize and conceptualize what I wanted to make, and then I would fold it up and put it back on the shelf and decide that, you know what, this is a problem for another day. As the months began to stack up, the guilt began to seep into the cracks of what should have been, and it became harder and harder to even think about starting this project. But every time I saw the fabric, I would get this little ping of guilt that was telling me, you should have done this ages ago, and you haven't even started yet. I convinced myself that I was working on it when I would go and look up inspiration for other skirts that had the similar type of fabric, and I'd gather inspiration, and I had ideas, but there was just something preventing me from actually just getting on with it and doing the project. In my head, I knew that it couldn't be hard. It couldn't be that hard anyhow. But somehow it seemed like a project that I didn't want to tackle anytime soon. And so I didn't. Inevitably, what happened was I started to realize that the guilt that was wearing away at my conscience, the guilt that was wearing away at my conscience became harder to deal with than just facing the challenge head on. And I don't know where the notion that this was going to be a very large challenge even came from. But somehow I managed to put so much pressure on myself that I couldn't even touch this project. But after a year and a half, it became more stressful and more physically taxing to avoid the project than it would be to just tackle it. So, one day I decided, you know what? Enough is enough. I have to do this because if I don't do it now, I'm never gonna get this done. So I ripped off the Band-Aid and very spontaneously started working on it. I didn't actually know what I was doing. I didn't even have a design in mind because at this point I had been collecting inspiration photos and looking at what other people have done and, you know, what the possibilities were. But I kind of put that all out of my mind or forgot about it and just decided, you know what, let's just start cutting into it. Let's just start making a skirt. Just make a skirt. You can make a skirt. And as soon as I started doing that, the pressure that I had put on myself for all these months alleviated. And suddenly, it wasn't so hard anymore. Somehow in my imagination, I had convinced myself that this was gonna be a really big deal. And it wasn't. The pressure was all imaginary. The pressure that I had been putting on myself was all the makings of my own imagination. And it sent me into this freeze response where I couldn't even tackle the project. Circling back around to what I said earlier about not having posted anything in a while, it is kind of the same exact storyline. When I started this YouTube channel, I felt like I was a little undiscovered gem. And that sounds a little bit self-absorbed to say that I'm an undiscovered gem, but just bear with me. I felt like I was creating on this tiny little corner on the internet and nobody actually knew that I existed because I was, for the most part, undiscovered. I had just a few subscribers and a few comments and it was really, really nice. Every time I uploaded a video, I could watch the views roll in and respond to the few comments I got, and it felt like this tiny little passion project and it didn't really matter. However, I enrolled in a YouTube training course a few months ago, and I didn't realize how well I was doing on YouTube until it was pointed out to me, because I don't know what I'm doing, if you haven't picked up on that by now. I'm just posting videos and I do what looks good to me, and I don't have a lot of technical understanding of filmmaking or content creation at all. I have intuition and I know what I think looks good, and that's what I do. But suddenly I wasn't just creating on this tiny little platform on the internet, and it felt like it started to matter. What I was doing was actually working, and then the pressure came. Because now I felt like I had to hold up this standard that I had created for myself unbeknownst to me. And so instead of latching onto that and using that as fuel to create more videos and better videos, I stopped creating at all. Not at all, but well, it's been months since I last posted, so kind of at all. at the end of finishing the project that you're watching me make in this video, I realized and put two and two together that the project that I was making in this video and the fact that this video is only coming out now when it should have come out ages ago, it's the same issue that I'm dealing with in both scenarios. The reason why I abandoned the channel and the reason why I abandoned this project was because there is invisible and mostly imagined pressure that I have put on my own self. And instead of using that pressure to propel me forward, I've allowed it to stunt my growth. It would make sense for previous experience to save the day, as it were, because I have my history and I know what I've done in the past and what I've been able to achieve in the past. And shouldn't that be a testament to what I can do in the future? But somehow that connection just never happens in my head. I am always thinking that this might be the time when the other shoe drops. So instead of going forward and allowing for the other shoe to drop, I just stop moving forward, because if I never get there, then I can never be disappointed. But I don't want to do that any longer, so I am making this video. And I am making this dress for my aunt because the pressure that I put on myself is not innately a bad thing. Pressure is a good thing. Beautiful things are formed under environments or in environments of high pressure. It's how I choose to allow that pressure to affect me that changes the outcome. Just because I put a lot of pressure on myself doesn't necessarily mean that I'm stuck with this unhealthy pattern of behavior. I can use that pressure to propel me forward and use it as fuel rather than a reason to halt my progress. Pressure has a way of following me no matter where I go. And whether it's real or imagined, at times I don't even know. I could be crushed under its weight or use its fuel to grow. But it's up to me and only me. I get to choose how this story goes. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments and I will see you next time. I feel like I haven't looked at the camera at all during this whole monologue. I hope I've said enough, because I don't have anything else to say.